Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this second episode in this series that we are doing on home automation with Flask. In this episode, we're going to be doing a few things. One, we're going to be learning how to put a HTML template and not just render text right onto the web page. We're actually going to put a full HTML file right onto the website instead. It's a lot easier that way. I'm also going to be giving you guys an HTML template that I'm going to use in this tutorial for the home automation to be able to create on-off devices. And also, we're also going to be learning how to put variables into the URL. So, for example, we could do /on and then /device name, and then whatever device you would type in, if that's a valid device name, then we would be able to process that and turn it on or off. And the last thing we're going to be doing today is we're going to be learning the basics of databases. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So first, let's learn about rendering templates. So to render templates, we're going to have to bring something else in from Flask. And it's just called render template. And so let's go back to our index over here. And let's change this around a little. Let's do /control panel, because this is going to be our control panel. This is going to be the place we go to control our smart home. So I'm going to do /control panel, and here we're going to return render template, and then in here we have to put a name of a template, and all of your templates will go in your template folder. Now I've already got a template in here. It's called controlpanel.html, and let's open that up. And it looks kind of complicated, but it's really simple. I'm going to explain it to you right now. So first, in our head tag, we've got some stuff about scaling to make sure that everything scales properly. If you're looking at this on a phone, everything will scale down so it will look good. And the second thing is for a style sheet called Bootstrap. Now, Bootstrap is a free online styling tool that lets you make really cool styles really quickly and design web pages with minimal effort. Just go on their website, you copy some code, you change it a little. It's very simple. If you don't want to get into HTML and CSS and all of that weird kind of stuff, Bootstrap is really the way to go. So I'm just going to launch this for you, and so I can show you exactly what it's going to look like. If we look over here, so here's our template. It's called on-off template, and you can have as many of these as you want. You would just copy paste the code, put it right under, and we're going to see how to change the things over here. And you've got open or close. You can change it to on-off. You can change it to whatever it is. And then over here, once we get it working, we're actually going to have a little red or green sort of color there. That is another button, but it doesn't do anything. And that just lets you know whether it's on or off, open or close, things like that. And yeah, that's basically it for the control panel for now. So all we're going to have to do is we're going to head back into our main app.py file, and in render template, we're gonna call the control panel.html file. Okay, and now if we go ahead and run our app, let's look at it here. And let me just launch it in a browser. So just give me a minute. Let's get localhost 5000. Oh, sorry. Localhost 5000 /control panel. And you'll see that we get that template. Yeah, so that's it for rendering templates. You can have as many templates here as you want. If you want, you can there's tons of stuff you can do with a scripting language called Jinja, which lets you put the HTML files together and put headers and footers and all this kind of fancy stuff, and variables and if statements in your HTML code. There's a lot of great stuff you can do, but for our purposes, that's all you're going to need. So we can stop app now. And so now we're going to learn how to put variables in the URL. So to put variables in the URL, we're going to make a new route. So app.route. And we're just going to call this /myname/ and this is where your variable is going to be. So it's going to be arrows like that, and then inside the arrows, name, or whatever variable you want it to be called. And then in your function, so let's call this return name. Now we're going to receive name when this function is called. See, so name over here will go here. So we can just, if we just return your name is, and then name, let's go ahead and run this. Let's get localhost over here. And so if I did /myname/ and let's say Avi, then you'll say your name is Avi. Or we could change it to, I don't know, Drake. No, that's Draker. Drake. And it says your name is Drake. So that's, those are variables. And the last thing we're going to cover is we're going to create the database that will store all the information about all the smart home products in our home that we will eventually obviously control. So we're going to stop that. We're going to get rid of this example that I just put there temporarily. And we're probably going to get rid of all this eventually anyway. You know what? I'm going to get rid of support right now because we don't need that. And I'm going to rename this function to control panel route. It's just good to keep things organized, keep things named properly so you know exactly what everything is when you're looking back at this, you know, a month, 2 months down the line. And right, so the last thing we're going to work on is we are going to do databases. So let me grab my sample database over here. Right, okay, so we're going to have to do another pip install for this. So let's get another command prompt window. Remember, just pressing the Windows key and typing CMD. And so we've got our command prompt here. And we're going to have to type in pip install flask _ SQL alchemy and hit enter. And you should see, if you don't have it already installed, that it's installing. And once it's installed, it might say you might want to upgrade or something. You don't really have to worry about that. Just make sure that it installs properly. If it doesn't, just search. I can't pip install flask _ SQL alchemy doesn't work. Maybe copy the error message that it gives you, and Google should give you some sort of reasonable answer and help you out. So we're not going to import that. So let's do from flask _ SQL alchemy import SQL alchemy. And so for our database to work, we're going to have something called a secret key. And so app.secretKey is equal to, and I'm just going to put a bunch of random letters and numbers. If you're deploying this like publicly for someone else to use or something, the best way to do it would probably, well, I don't know the best practices, but from what I know, from what you're probably going to be doing, you don't need so high security. You would just import random and just get a random, I don't know, string of 20 or 30 characters. So we've got our random string here, and then we're going to have to configure our file here to understand that we have a database. So we're going to do app.config, okay, and then in square brackets, in all uppercase, SQL alchemy, okay, underscore database underscore URI equals, and then what you want the database to be called. We're going to be using SQLITE because there's an actual file that will exist in the file system, so it's a lot easier to view and create and maintain. It's just, you can obviously use other ones. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's other databases that actually work in like server type kind of deals, but I find this the easiest, and I don't see much reason for a project like this not to use this, because it's just simpler to manipulate the data. So we're going to type in SQLITE, SQLITE, colon, and then three slashes, and then the name of your database. I usually like to call it site.db. And then to initialize it, we're going to make a variable. I usually call it db, and we're going to make that equal to SQLAlchemy, right? And then in parentheses, we're going to pass in our app. So now we're going to actually have to make something called tables. And tables is what's stored inside our database that stores data. So if you're using something like PyCharm that autocompletes stuff, you might get a little worried because PyCharm is not going to autocomplete basically anything from SQL Alchemy. It looks like it's not going to work. It's going to be like, oh, we don't recognize this. Oh, it doesn't exist. It's wrong. It does exist. I'm not sure why it happens. Maybe it won't happen for you, but for me, that always happens. It says, oh, it doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about. If you want to add it, don't do any of that. You can just ignore it if it bothers you. It does bother me, but other than that, just ignore these warnings because obviously PyCharm does not know what it's talking about. So I'm going to call this class, we have to make a class, and the class represents our tables. So I'm going to call this devices, because that's exactly what they are. There are smart home devices. And in here, we're going to type in db.model. You really don't have to know anything about classes. I don't know much about classes. You just have to be able to copy this and make it however you need it. So every SQLite data, almost any database needs a special ID. So we're going to make ID equals db dot column, and then in here we're going to say db dot integer, because that's what it is. It's going to be an integer, and we're going to say primary underscore key equals uppercase T true. And you'll see that it's highlighted in yellow. It says we don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just going to ignore it because it's a little annoying with the yellow text, but there's really no issue. So now we're going to actually add in our columns into our table, and this is what we're going to store the data in. So first we're going to have something called API name, which is what is going to be referred to on the device, and how you're going to control it using your control panel .html file. And we're going to say API name equals db.column, and let's just make it a string .string, and we can make this a max of 30 characters, not a big deal. And nullable, which means are you allowed to leave it blank or not when like an entry to the table is created. And we're going to say false, because all of your devices need an API name, otherwise it just won't work. And then we're going to do state, so what state it is in right now. So a garage door, light switches, smart outlets, that kind of thing, it's just going to be 0 and 1 for on and off. But also for maybe like RGB lights, it's going to be a 9-number RGB code or something like that. But everything should be stored in numbers. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Well, but instead of string, we're going to do an integer, just like we did with the ID. So we're going to do db.column, and it's going to be db.integer, and then we're going to say, sorry, you know what? No, let's do a string. String would be more ideal for this. So string 10 characters should probably be fine, and nullable equals, oops, what am I doing? Nullable, yeah, equals false. Now we got one more thing, display name. So your API name is going to have underscores and that kind of thing because it has to be in a URL, but what it actually displays on the website or something like that, or on a mobile app that you might be able to create, I haven't made one. I haven't thought of making one, but that's an idea. We could make a mobile app, so it would want a display name to display all the different things. So display name equals db.column, and it's just going to be the exact same thing from API name. So db.string 30 and nullable equals false. And let me just ignore the warning for the string. All right, so that's it. So just to initialize it, we're going to go under our class and we're going to say db.createAll. And if we run our app, and something didn't work. Alright guys, I figured out the issue. I accidentally put 2 L's here. So now if we run the app, I believe everything should be good to go. So let's just stop it. And you see here we get a new file called site.db. And site.db will store all the data. So I've got a SQLITE database browser here. So let me just find the database. Hold on. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. So if we look in here, let me see if I can make this any bigger. View preferences. Yeah, let me up the font size for you so you can see what the heck is going on. I hope you guys can see that. But you see under tables here we've got devices, and if we go into browse data, just do that and that. Hold on, let me just scale this up so you guys can see what we're actually looking at. So you see we've got the ID here, our display, our API name, our state, and our display name. So we could create a new record and then put in all the things. The ID would automatically be filled with the next number. So it's obviously start with 1, or it might be 0, I'm not sure. And then you would put in the API name, the current state, and the display name. But yeah, that's the basics of databases. You now have a database. Oops. 1 second, guys. Sorry. Yeah, so that is databases. That's the last thing we're going to be doing in this episode. But yeah, that's basically it. So next time we're going to learn how to use that database and actually start creating our API to be able to control the different services that we're going to be creating in future videos on how to, build physical devices with mostly Arduino and that kind of thing. I'm going to link a link to the control panel. Well, I'm not sure if it's going to be up the minute the video comes out, but I will hopefully get around to it. And if I don't, please comment down below and just, let me know that I forgot, and I will definitely go ahead and upload that file so you guys can use the template. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. I hope you guys are following along, finding this useful. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with anyone you think might find it interesting, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.